good to see you all. You good to go? You're all set? I mean, everything's okay? Okay. No, there's nothing to say. Oh, you have it? Oh. Yeah, probably. Let's hope so. You just got me into panic mode, by the way. Not that.
I'm going to start the 11:11.
Okay.
11:09.
Okay.
Because I'm talking about the children.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Good.
but it'll be the normal. Going in a moment.
Ding, ding, ding. After the moment, you just look at me and I'll go ding 11 times.
How are you?
You may need help. Why don't we move the chairs over here?
Bring your seats over there. Bring your seats. Just have to be seated to the time. Yes. You're in charge of it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Falmouth. I am Robert Foos, a member of the Falmouth Veterans Council, and I will be your Master of Ceremony for today's Veterans Day ceremony. For those of you carrying cell phones, I ask that you turn them off or silence them for the duration of the ceremony. On behalf of the town of Falmouth, welcome back. Thank you for participating in today's special ceremony and spending your day with us here on Memorial Lane. Unlike Memorial Day, which remembers and honors those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in service to their country, Veterans Day celebrates all men and women who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise or remain standing, remove your hats, cover your hearts, and direct your attention to the flagpole behind me as the Falmouth High School Repertory Singers perform the national anthem.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we
you. Although we normally have Scouts lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we are exceptionally lucky to have these 6 Eagle Scouts from the same troop, 5 of which made Eagle at the same Board of Review. Their Eagle projects benefit the local community and include a project at the Falmouth Service Center, the Wacoit Bay Estuarine Reserve, and their Scoutmaster is Ed Bruce, and they're sponsored by a group of citizens from North Falmouth. Please join me in welcoming Falmouth Scouts Dominic Bowen, Rick LaRufa, Sam Thrasher, James Walden, Dalton Waltring, and Matt Briggs from Troop 38 to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scouts. For those of you with seats, please be seated. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the dignitaries we have in the audience. We have General Gordon Sullivan, Senator Susan Moran, I believe Congressman Bill Keating is here, State Representatives David Vieira and Dylan Fernandez, Town Manager Julian Suso, and Assistant Town Manager Peter Johnson Staub. We have our Select Board, Chair Doug Brown, Vice Chair Nancy Taylor, as well as Samuel Peterson, Megan English Braga, and Anjal Scott Price. Our Chief of Police, Edward Dunn, Fire Chief Timothy Smith, and Barnstable County Sheriff James Cummings, as well as our Veteran Services staff, Don Lincoln and Julie Cadigan, who without them, this ceremony would not be possible. We also have our Veterans Council, Carissa April, our chair, Kevin Casey, Randy Collette, Bill Doherty, and Elizabeth Sweeney here. We also have our former Veteran Service officers, Jay Hill and Ted Gibbs. Thank you all for joining us today. It's great to see everyone in real life rather than on a Zoom screen. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our Coast Guard Color Guard, our Falmouth Police, and Falmouth Scouting Honor Color Guards. Now, Reverend Nell Fields from the Wacoit Congregational Church will deliver our invocation.
Let us pray. God of many names, we invite you into this day when we show our gratitude for veterans of every age, those who answered the call to serve our nation. We thank you for those veterans gathered here today. We honor them for their faithful service in defending and preserving our freedom. We are grateful for those who serve during times of peace, standing ready, bravely awaiting their call to duty. We are grateful for those who served in times of conflict, bearing the physical and spiritual wounds of war. We ask that you continue to bless them and their families, heal their wounds, and give them peace. May we always remember this day and every day what our country has asked of them and what they have given in return. We ask that you bless all who are gathered here this morning, O God. May we be inspired by what we see and hear, so that we too may continue to respond to your call to serve. We ask in the name of all that is holy. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Fields. On this day, 100 years ago, an unknown American serviceman's remains from France were interred in what is now known as the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington Cemetery. During the ceremony, officiated by President Harding, the World War I unknown was awarded the Victoria Cross by Admiral of the Fleet Lord Beatty on behalf of King George V of the United Kingdom, the Legion of Honor, the Médaille Militaire and Croix de Guerre from France, the War Cross from Czechoslovakia, the Gold Medal for bravery from Italy, the Virtuti Militari from Poland, and the Virtuti Militara from Romania. The World War I unknown is now joined with an unknown from World War II and an unknown from Korea. In 1998, the Vietnam unknown was identified as Air Force First Lieutenant Michael Joseph Blassie, and his remains were returned to his family. The unknowns have been bestowed with the highest military honors from the United States and our allies, and on the tomb is inscribed, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." Known around the world as Armistice Day and Remembrance Day, the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour signifies the ends of hostilities on the Western Front of World War I in 1918. Please join me in a moment of silence for the 4.7 million Americans that fought in that great war and the 116,708 that never came home. Thank you. It is now my distinct honor to introduce today's keynote speaker, Dr. Ron Nasif, a retired commander in the United States Naval Reserve. I still need to talk about you. Dr. Nasif spent 25 years in the U.S. Naval Reserve, retiring as a commander. In 1982, he attended flight school in Pensacola and has served as a flight surgeon during Operation Desert Storm and as an orthopedic surgeon in Iraq in 2005. Prior to joining the Navy, Dr. Nasif graduated from Boston College, where he played 2 years of collegiate football before getting sidelined by injury. After graduation, he went on to graduate from Tufts Medical School and became an orthopedic surgeon. An avid football fan with a lifelong love of the game, he founded the Brookline Jamaica Plain Pop Warner football program in 1997, serving as its first president, and coached football for more than 3 decades. In 2007, Dr. Nasif was presented the Distinguished Service Award by the High School Football Coaches Association. He is married to his wife Sonia, and they have 3 sons. Please join me again in welcoming Dr. Nasif.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ron Nasif. I'm a veteran and a resident of Falmouth. I self-identify as a male, and my pronouns are he, his, and him. I also I identify as a Caucasian, although when I get that summer tan in deference to my Middle Eastern roots, I sometimes check the other box. I'm vaccinated. I hope I'm not xenophobic. Last time I checked, I was heterosexual. And my ex-wife will tell you that I can be narcissistic at times. Now, I apologize if I've offended anyone. We veterans take risks. But if you are offended, I can assure you it won't matter, because you're probably of my generation and you will forget everything I've had to say by this time tomorrow. 40 years ago, I was a young surgeon when I became aware that the military was in need of physicians in my specialty, orthopedics. I discussed with my father, who was a World War II veteran, and voluntarily accepted a commission in the U.S. Navy Reserve as a junior officer. I can tell you it was probably the last time I volunteered for anything in the military. But over the next several years, as a reservist, I attended weekend drills, 1 weekend a month, which is what we do, 2 weeks a year of active duty. And being a physician, I drilled at medical clinics like Weymouth and Quincy, sometimes assigned to hospitals like Newport Naval and Portsmouth Naval. Also, over the next several decades, I was caught up in at least two long-term periods of active duty, Operation Desert Storm and Iraqi Freedom. I can tell you I was always grateful to return to my home and my family and my practice. In preparation for today, I asked a few young people, a few adults and children, as a matter of fact, what it was to be a veteran. And I consistently got the answer from adults that it meant you had a period of military service. And at least one child told me, well, it means you fought in a war. And actually, both responses are accurate. But a veteran is defined as an individual who has served in one of our branches of military service and has received anything other than a dishonorable discharge. It's usually an honorable discharge, sometimes it's a general or medical discharge. But it's a broad sweep, and even you'll find that some civilians can be eligible as a status of a veteran if they served in a military capacity. There are 6 branches of the armed services, and starting with the Army, which was established in 1775 by an act of Continental Congress in June, 3 days before the Battle of Bunker Hill, in fact. The Navy, established again by Continental Congress in October of that year, and the Marines in November of that year to assist the Navy and Army in land operations. It's interesting that these services were established even before the United States was established by the Declaration of Independence the following year. The Coast Guard, established in 1790, and now we had a Congress which established it, and a president who signed it into law, President Washington, as part of the Tariff Act, to help with trade and tariff laws. The Air Force evolved out of the Army as early as 1903 from Kitty Hawk and the Wright brothers. The military watched flight advance. The Army and the Navy in particular studied and advanced flight operations themselves. The Army probably was ahead with the Army Air Force, as well as the Navy also had a separate contingent. In the 1920s, the Navy was converting battleships to aircraft carriers. The Army Air Corps in World War II, of course, expanded greatly. And after the war, the Air Force was established in 1947 by, again, the Congress, and signed into law by President Truman. Most recently, we have the Space Force, which is the 6th branch of armed service. Still in its infancy, only 1,000 active participants, both military and civilian. The Army, for example, has over 450,000 active members. Navy and the Air Force not far behind. And we have uniform branches. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Department of Commerce, Public Health Service and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Merchant Marine. They all have both civilian and military members. All are eligible for veteran services. The Merchant Marine, in fact, had as many per capita losses in World War II as the U.S. Navy. If you were to Google up the phrase national debt, you'd get something like 19 million, 20 million responses, websites. But very little of it refers to the debt we have to our veterans. In a sense, we have 19 million living veterans today, and of course, we have lost 1 million men and women to war or war-related injury. We can never repay our veterans. The gratitude and respect that we should have for them should last forever. Veterans have endured long periods of being away from home, missed the births of children. They served in freezing cold. Ask any Korean veteran or Aleutian Island veteran from World War II. They've baked in heat. They've returned with post-traumatic stress disorder. They've lost limbs, and too many times they've lost comrades. I ask you, what CEO or graduate of any distinguished school bears the responsibility of a 21-year-old squad leader on point patrol in a hostile third world nation? And military, not so much veterans, but active duty, can never be political. I ask you all, never confuse the actions of our active duty personnel with political activity. The military enforces policy. Policies are made by the executive branch of our government, the president and his or her cabinet, and the legislative branch, the Congress. They vote the laws, they either veto them or pass them, but that branch of government makes policy. The military enforces it. No active duty person or veteran should ever be held accountable or criticized for doing their job, for following their orders to the best of their ability. Well, I'd like, in conclusion, just take a sentence from Abe Lincoln, okay? I don't want to stretch it out too long, but it was a civil war with well over 600,000 casualties that really made us aware of the need to provide for veterans. And in his second inauguration, as the war was coming to a close, his speeches were all superb, of course, but I'll just take one sentence. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us, let us strive on to finish our work, to bind up our nation's wound, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and orphan. Very applicable even today. By their blood, service, and sacrifice, veterans have given us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on earth. It's impossible to put a price on these things. But we must remember and appreciate our veterans. Don't ever hesitate. It's never an insult to thank a veteran for his or her service. And to my fellow veterans, when you are thanked for your service, I hope you will thank that individual right back. For my part, I like to say thank you. It was an honor to serve. May God bless all our veterans and their families and all of us. And may God bless America and the American way of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nasif. I now invite all our veterans in the audience to form up at the World War I Memorial to pass in review. As they are forming up, the pass in review is a long-standing military tradition that began as a way for newly assigned commanders to inspect their troops as the soldiers, sailors, or airmen march past. Today, these veterans won't be marching past us for our inspection, but rather to allow us to publicly acknowledge and thank them for their service to our nation. Will the audience please rise and join me in saying thank you? Veterans, pass in review. Thank you for your service, and it is incredible the number of veterans we have amongst us here in our town. For those with seats, please be seated. Robin Ketchum will now present flowers on behalf of the Falmouth Garden Club. The gift of flowers at a memorial site is a ritual that occurs around the world, understood in every culture. The floral tributes at funerals bespeak both the beauty and brevity of life. Thank you, Robin. The Brian Baru Pipe Band will now perform Minstrel Boy. This concludes today's ceremony. Thank you again for joining us for Falmouth's 2021 observance of Veterans Day.